What are we calling friends and fans of Product Fridays? Like prod prod dogs?
Prod dogs is good.
Yeah.
The produce section, I
O-
feel like we could do.
Okay. Yeah.
Fry prods. Hmm?
Yeah.
Hmm?
We'll workshop that. We'll workshop that. Okay. Uh Today, let's get to it. Today we're talking about vibe coding and what that means for the future of software development. And before we dig in, I would like to start with some kind of table setting. What is vibe coding, Andrew McGill?
Oh gosh. Okay. I think if I had to distill it down to the simplest English sentence, it's using a large language model to type a paragraph of what software you want to exist in the universe. And then that large language model does all the hard work of writing code and provisioning servers and spinning up mainframes or whatever to put that software in front of you and accomplish the task.
And the key word in vibe coding is vibe because you don't need to be a real capital P programmer. You can just have an idea. And it reminds me of what Midjourney Dali did for artwork. It made artists out of people who didn't necessarily know how to make art otherwise. Vibe coding feels similar for software.
Andrew, I actually feel like between the two of us, you have the funner vibe coding story about Thanksgiving. I want you to tell it.
Oh, okay. Because I want to hear what you're vibe coding on lately. Great example of vibe coding for me. Every Thanksgiving, I am perennially late getting food on the table. It's like 1.5 to 2 hours after I intended it and far too stressed. And so I worked with ChatGPT last Thanksgiving to create a simple app, like dumb web app, where I input the desired time that we want, forks in mouth, and tell it kind of how big my turkey is and what my sides are. And it spits out this like back timed schedule of all the steps that I need to take and in what order. And it makes it really, really simple. This is not, some kind of world changing unicorn startup app. I don't think that a company would make this or that I would like to scale it into a business, but it had this very specific value for me and my family. And by the way, I also could have just written the code, but I didn't want to spend the time doing that. And in that case, ChatGPT like got the idea out of my head and off the ground so that I could kind of move on to the next idea.
Yeah, I feel like the headlines you see about vibe coding are always like vibe coding will render the programming profession obsolete, or you're going to have vibe coders making $1 billion unicorns. I don't know. I guess that could be true. We're not there yet. What I actually see as the most useful application of vibe coding right now are these little micro applications like you're talking about. Like, I'm not going to be able to go to the software store. I don't know. What is that? The App Store?
Yeah, the software
Envisioning like
store.
going to the mall and you used to like see those little boxes of software and you pull them off. I'm not going to go to the App Store and get like the perfect Andrew McGill tiny app to replace his QuickBooks workflow, which is what I'm actually working on right now. No one's going to make that for me because it's not cost effective. It just serves me. But because we now have pretty competent minor level coders in LLMs, I can just spin that up myself. And if it's not perfect, doesn't have great polish, if it sometimes breaks, doesn't matter because it's really just something that's for me on my own computer.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about the backlash because now, of course, there's a chorus of voices saying this isn't real engineering. People relying on AI aren't learning the fundamentals of programming, and the software they make is going to be buggy or insecure. They won't understand the full stack. They're fake programmers.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I have been a software engineer pretty much my whole career, right? But I'll note that I also have mostly felt like a fraud the entire time because, there always were engineers who were better than me. And I just like to build things to solve problems. Here's the long arc of history for coding. Like, I feel like it is the story of human beings, like inventing new tools to make their lives just a little bit easier in the morass of making a machine like do things with ones and zeros, right? Like if you go all the way back, I don't know, like univac or something. I guess people were coding in binary, like punch cards and stuff, but very quickly they invented assembly, which is an extremely low level computer language that made it just a little bit easier. And then they invented higher level languages like C or C++, which made coding just a little bit more easy. And then they invented like web browsers and JavaScript and all sorts of things that made coding easier, but are abstracted even further and further and further away. And we're not even talking about web frameworks like React or like server frameworks like Next.js, blah, 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 lots of buzzwords here. Like coders have always been trying to invent a tool to add a layer of abstraction between themselves and the hard work of binary computing. And I also think coders have always looked a little bit askance at that while it's happening. Like if I can just say one quick memory, like I remember a few years ago when we were both at the Atlantic, I was talking to an engineer who was like, all these junior devs, they're using too many JavaScript libraries. Like the package sizes are bloated. And me, as someone who is far less skilled than this guy, I was like, well, I kind of like the fact that I can just go to my computer and ask it to download a little tool to do this tiny little computing JavaScript thing that would have been really hard for me to code otherwise. That feels like a good thing. And when I look at the coming layer of vibe coding with that lens, I'm like, oh my God, like that opens it up even more for people that need an extra hand in getting stuff done.
Yeah, I was listening to Lenny's podcast with Guillermo Roche, who founded Vercel and V0, which is like the hot Vercel AI assisted programming tool. And he's like, soon we will stop saying AI. AI is just software, and humans use software to build software. I mean, this whole like debate about AI reminds me of the iPhone and all of the reactions from professional photographers when the iPhone started getting a good camera. Like, first, the reaction was, well, the iPhone will ruin photography. The world will be flooded with low quality photos created by people who don't really understand the fundamentals of photography. Then the argument kind of evolved into like, ooh, the cameras are pretty good and software is fixing a lot of the mistakes that amateur photographers make, and professional photographers will eventually cease to exist. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think pro photographers are still out there making great pictures. But the point is, these tools come into our lives and democratize access to technologies that were previously very hard to access. And I see it as this additive sort of rising tide lifts all boats situation, as opposed to some sort of a zero sum threat to other professionals who have been doing it before.
I think the iPhone metaphor is super apt. And I see vibe coding along the same lines of making personalized software in exactly the same vein.
Okay, can we talk about the phrase prompt engineering for a second, which is sort of a
Yes.
cousin to the vibe coding discussion? 2 years ago, I don't think that phrase existed, and now it's like an actual job title that they're hiring people to do.
Yeah. Can I just say I'm a little skeptical real quick? Because, like, yes, prompt engineering is 100% a thing. I do it. I guess it's a profession. But I do think that every time OpenAI like rolls out a new model, there's just a little bit less of a need for specialized prompt engineering. And in fact, like the old tricks can backfire. You think back to that trick they used to do, which is ask the model to think step by step, and it'll do this chain of thought thing that'll make the answers way better. And that worked in GPT-3, I think, and probably in GPT-4. But in the new actual chain of thought models, it actually hurts performance. So I'm seeing prompt engineering actually getting abstracted away.
Yeah, I hear that. I think the thing that sticks around, even if prompt engineering evolves or goes away, is the idea that a human has to bring clarity to the task, right? Like if I sit down and ask ChatGPT to help me think through a project or help me approach a proposal for a client, I actually have to sit down and think about what I'm trying to accomplish and provide a lot of context in a certain order. And then, of course, when I don't get exactly the response I want, I need to refine, refine, refine. And it's quite satisfying to get to the point where you feel like you've got the prompt. That requires humanity, and it requires a certain kind of thinking. I'm thinking back to recently read a blog post from my old friend and colleague Rajiv Pant, He wrote about the experience of watching his 13-year-old son use AI to create a new emoji. He had an emoji in his head that didn't exist. So he went through many iterations to figure out how to get the emoji to look the way he wanted. And when he finally got the image to look the way he wanted, he didn't stop and move on. He actually then worked with the LLM to build a finely tuned custom prompt that he could then use again and again to generate future emojis. And like Rajiv's point was, that's engineering, right? His son learned abstraction, his son learned patterns. That's the stuff that matters. And in his view, and in my view, AI will actually help create a new generation of engineers and not replace them.
Yeah, I agree. I love that example because what I see it doing is, the kid using AI iteratively to kind of figure out the right incantations to say or make in order to make this particular image happen. And this is the thing about code, like so much of my programmer brain is filled up with the extremely idiosyncratic, language specific incantations I have to learn to make the computer do a certain thing in JavaScript or in Python or something like that.
Yeah, this is so nerdy, but I love using AI for git ignore files. Like, all right, I got this Python app and I need like 900 things to ignore. It just kind of takes away that overhead. Can we do like a very brief, tell me your vibe coding workflow? Like, are you using Replit? Are you just going into the Chat GPT client? How are you actually doing the vibe coding, as the kids
Yeah.
say?
Okay. So I am not what I would call like an end-to-end vibe code stack user. Like I'm envisioning services like Replit or Lovable, which basically offer to take again a paragraph that you've written and spin up infrastructure and databases and code and things like that. I don't think those tools are 100% there yet. What I am far more likely to use is my AI powered developer environment, which is called Cursor, which is just like the black box you type your code into, but it's got this little chat panel on the side where you can ask the agent, hey, can you spin up a bunch of new components for me that follow this specification? Or, hey, I actually need to refactor this so it does things a little differently. Can you suggest some ways to do that? And it's funny, like, sometimes I will go an hour with having written very little code myself, but it's instead directing the agent to do things just a little bit better again and again.
Okay, I sidebar. I have an idea for us. I think it would be cool to do like a live vibe coding, like a live episode where we code something up and we time box it. I don't know, maybe we come up with the idea, maybe people suggest it to us.
Yeah, we should do some live vibing.
All right, that's great. Okay, so if this is interesting to you, dear listener, I really should say viewer because this is a video
Yeah.
newsletter. If this is interesting to you, leave a Substack comment on our Substack. You can just go to productfridays.com to find us or email us. We have a new email address, Andrew. It is hello@productfridays.com. And let us know. We'll figure out how to do a live thing next time.
Okay, well, speaking of readers or
Yes.
viewers, whatever
Yes.
we're calling them, I opened up the mailbox. I saw a little letter from one of our readers slash viewers.
We have fan mail at Product Fridays. Can you
It's
believe
pretty
that?
exciting. Okay, this is from friend of the podcast, David Somerville. Thank you, David. He asks, as gamers and product designers, what is your opinion of the Playdate? Andrew, do you know what this is?
Yes, but you actually bought one, did you not? I didn't.
Yeah,
I've
okay, so
never
I'll just
used one.
I'll take this one. The Playdate is a little tiny Game Boy, basically. It's not a real Game Boy, but it is a small handheld gaming system, about yay big. It's cute. It's bright yellow. It's got this little crank. It's got
Crank
these little
operated, right?
keys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's produced by this company that I know you and I really admire called Panic. Panic started out as, I guess, actually two guys that made like developer software, and then all of a sudden they started publishing games, and they actually partnered with, I think, Teenage Electronics over in Sweden to produce this little game system, the Playdate. And I have to say, David, I want to love the Playdate. It's got this really cute form factor. It's got this subscription model where every week you get a new game downloaded to it. But it's actually just kind of hard to use. The screen is really, really, really small. It doesn't have a backlight, so I'm always like squinting to look at it. And it's mostly hanging out in the drawer right now.
All right, what
All
what
right,
else
so
is
let's
what else we
do
got from David?
number two is since you were underwhelmed by the Switch 2's interface, what do you think is the biggest product innovation of the past 5 years, and why is it the generative AI chat interface? Okay,
Is he
wow,
is he
stacking the
trolling us a
deck,
little bit?
David.
Okay. I mean,
Hmm.
I kind of think it is, right?
It might be. I mean, here 5 years, right? That means what, 2020? What's
2020.
happened in the past 5 years that feels as new?
We had like Animal Crossing. Uh, what else? Animal Crossing and
Yeah,
AI, baby. That's it.
I feel like I have to do an honorable mention since we're
Yeah.
in the gaming headspace right now.
Yeah,
David
yeah,
put me
yeah.
there. That I do feel like one new invention of the last 5 years that feels very new but very targeted is the expansive open world of Baldur's Gate 3, which,
Mm,
by the way, everybody is a video game. It's a role-playing game, but is like probably 10 to 15 times more narratively exciting than any role-playing game that ever came out before, and
easily.
almost mimics the open-end feeling of like playing a role-playing game with your friend. It's that deep and detailed. I don't know how they did it. AI barely existed when they started building it, but I feel like there's something there.
Yeah. I think there's like 17,000 possible ending combinations depending on your unique
Ridiculous.
100 hours of play.
Yeah, okay, last part. Why hasn't AR VR taken off? If you were hired by a Nintendo Skunks Work team to solve that problem, where would you start? You got to take this because you're the VR guy.
I think the answer is because it's sweaty. I mean, like no one wants to strap something to their face for that long. The hardware is too bulky. The battery life isn't good.
Yeah, I think it just needs to be cheaper. And honestly, like I do think the sweatiness is the biggest impediment. Like it needs to be glasses. It just need to be glasses. Like when
Yeah.
we get the tech down to the point where they are glasses that I'm putting on and not a band I'm strapping my head into, that is when I will personally be excited by VR. Well, Andrew, it's been another Product Fridays, and I am looking forward to the next one. And to keep that going, what do we need the viewers to do?
Well, first, again, we'd love to hear from you. Hello at productfridays.com. Also, we were just catching up with a very good friend, product manager friend, who was like, would you guys mind if I forwarded this to the product team so they could listen? We were like, yes, of course. I mean, I feel like our audience is probably mostly people who work in product and tech. So if you work in a product team, you should share this and let other people listen to it, and then tell us what you like, what you don't like, and we'll keep making it better.
Yeah, I'm going to steal a line, but if you like Product Fridays, share it with a friend. And if you don't like Product Fridays, then share it with an enemy. We're good either way.
All right, Andrew, until next week, happy Friday.
Happy Friday!